Now, teenage sensation Estevão outshone Lamine Yamal as Chelsea beat Barcelona 3-0 in the Champions League last night. Let's get more on this and speak live to South American football expert Tim Vickery. Tim, thank you so much for your time. It was billed as Estevão versus Yamal, but it was the Chelsea forward who stole the show. Has there been much talk in Brazil about his goal last night?
There most certainly has. Oh, you lucky people. You get to watch this every week. And we had it for a little more than a year. And you could see right from the start, right from his first game, that you're dealing with a very, very special talent. And this is a talent which, especially since Carlo Ancelotti took over as Brazil coach, is of crucial importance to the national team. Estevão's first start for Brazil, he played a few times as a sub, but his first start was Ancelotti's first game as Brazil coach. And he's banged in 5 goals in the last few games, 5 goals between September and November. So he's a crucial part of Brazil's quest to win the World Cup next year. And I reiterate the point. Don't take this for granted. You lucky people, you get to watch this every week. And I think we've got probably now the first genuine Brazilian superstar to have chosen the Premier League. Usually they want Real Madrid or Barcelona. Estevão has come to Chelsea. Please don't take this for granted.
Yeah, Tim. I mean, Enzo Maresca has played down the talk of comparisons with Messi and Ronaldo. We can talk about it, though. Do you think he can reach that level?
We can. Well, he was known right at the start of his career as a youth player. He was known as Messinho, Little Messi. And when he got his break in the first team at Palmeiras, he scored a goal on debut. It's getting in at the far post, and you're thinking, you look at him and you think he's got no right to score that goal. And the opposition was a little team from Uruguay called Liverpool. And you're thinking back then, it's not going to be long before he's doing it against a rather more famous Liverpool. And guess who his first goal in the Premier League was scored against? You got it. Liverpool. I well remember his coach at Palmeiras, Abel Ferreira, saying, now remember, Abel's Portuguese, had a good playing career. He's coached in Portugal, in Greece. He's coach of Endrick, who was at Real Madrid. And I remember Abel in a post-match press conference, pleading in vain, of course, with Palmeiras not to sell him, but saying, this lad, he is different from anything I've ever seen. So, yes, I think comparisons with the top draw are, all right, they put a burden of pressure on him, but he does seem to respond extremely well to pressure.
Just how highly regarded is Estevão in Brazil?
Well, I think he's generally regarded as the best, the brightest, the most talented player to come out of Brazil since Neymar, with 1 or 2 advantages. He seems more stable than Neymar, and there's certainly so far, there's much less baggage around him. And so I think the sky's the limit. I remember one of his early games for Chelsea, he tried something in his own half, gave the ball away, Chelsea conceded a goal. Did it bother him? Not a bit. Very soon, up the other end, he's set up his first assist for Chelsea. And it's not just the extraordinary talent. Now, these goals are being scored off his wrong foot. He's left-footed. The goal that he scored yesterday, it's like the one he scored against Chelsea in the Club World Cup from an impossible angle on his wrong foot. So it seems that there's no limit to what he can do, providing he can stay injury-free.
There were loads of clubs interested in signing Estevão. Why do you think he picked Chelsea?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And obviously, he was on everyone's wish list, and he did choose Chelsea. Well, a few months ago, his agent talked about this, and he said that the factor that what tipped the balance in Chelsea's favour was that they were the club that were most open to seeing him as a number 10. Not a player stuck on the wing, cutting in, but as a number 10 with freedom to roam around. Obviously, that's a project for the long term, and how that filters through from those buying him to the person picking the team is something that we're not entirely clear about. But that is, I'm told, why Chelsea, it's one of the reasons that Chelsea won this race.
How much do you think he'd be worth if a club was trying to sign him now?
Considerably more than Chelsea paid for him, because he's already proved his worth, hasn't he? So he's already put himself, I think, in that space where almost no one can afford him. And obviously Chelsea have got him up on a long-term contract, and you can watch this every week. Please don't take this for granted. You have got one of the most exciting talents in the global game. I think the first genuine Brazilian superstar to play in Brazil when they're before and going to reach their peak. I'm not sure if all the money in the world could buy him at the moment.
Yeah, very interesting, Matt. High praise indeed. Let's move on and talk about the World Cup, which you've kind of mentioned a little bit with Brazil and their hopes. You know, the draw is around the corner. What South American side should we be keeping an eye out for?
Well, Argentina obviously are the defending champions, and they've done very well since. And they won the Copa America last year. They finished clearly top of World Cup qualification, and they've found a way to play without Lionel Messi. And Messi is still very much involved, but he's not quite as important as he was. And some of their best performances, and they thrashed Brazil 4-1 a few months ago without Messi. So things are going very well for them. But Argentina are trying to do what has never been done. It's difficult to retain the World Cup, almost impossible. What no one has ever done is win that second World Cup outside your home continent. So it'd be fascinating to see if Argentina are up to that challenge. Brazil are certainly getting better since Carlo Ancelotti took charge, and no one is going to want to face that attacking talent. You know, you get the likes of Estevão and Vinicius Junior and Rafinha and Rodrigo, Mateus Cunha running at you. No one wants to face that. So don't write off Brazil. Colombia are interesting, but I think too dependent on Luis Diaz and James Rodriguez to go all the way. Ecuador don't let in goals, but they find it very difficult to score them. Uruguay under Marcelo Bielsa are in real problems. They lost 5-1 last week to the States, and Bielsa gave an extraordinary press conference when he spent 2 hours heaping abuse on himself. So he's under pressure. Paraguay are difficult opponents, but you can't see him going all the way. So I fear it's down to launch a challenge for the title. It's down to the big two, Argentina and Brazil.
Yeah, lots to look forward to. That World Cup draw is on December the 5th. Not long to wait now. Not long to wait either before the transfer window opens up once again. And I want to talk about Rodrigo, because there have been rumours that the Real Madrid forward could be moving to the Premier League. Can you tell us anything?
Well, I have no inside track on this. I've heard nothing official. But in the insignificance of my own opinion, I was quite surprised that he didn't move in the previous transfer window. He obviously decided to knuckle down and try and be important at Real Madrid. But the acquisition of Mbappé has made it difficult, because Mbappé likes that kind of left channel. Vinny Jr. likes that left channel. And Rodrigo likes that left channel. How can you fit them all in? So I wonder now, after the evidence of Xabi Alonso's first few months in charge, if Rodrigo has now come to a different conclusion than the one that he reached in the summer, when he thought the best thing to do was knuckle down and fight for a place at Real Madrid. I'm sure it would benefit him to go to a club where he can have the importance that his talent justifies, and there aren't many who can afford him, and most of those who can are in the Premier League. So watch this space in January.
Mikel Arteta has made it clear that Arsenal will need to unleash their complete player against Bayern Munich. The Gunners host the German champions at the Emirates Stadium on Wednesday, and one man in particular could be decisive. Ebereki Eze, described as a very complete player by teammate Mikel Merino, is emerging as one of Arsenal's most dangerous weapons ahead of their Champions League clash with Bayern. The 27-year-old announced himself in North London with a stunning hat-trick in his first derby since arriving in a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. His 3 brilliant goals dismantled Tottenham, and truthfully, he could have scored even more. Mourinho believes every one of Arsenal's 8 summer signings has lifted the squad's level, helping the team build a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League. But Wednesday's matchup is different. Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champions, represent the toughest test yet for Arteta's side. Speaking after the win over Spurs, Mourinho praised Iza's qualities and hinted at the impact he could have in such a high-stakes European battle. "We've brought in a lot of players who can make a difference. But you can see that other teams have spent big as well," the Spain international said. "Individual brilliance can win matches, sure, but in the end, it's the team that matters. If you have great players who don't connect, that's a problem. The good thing about this group is that everyone thinks about the team first." When asked about Iza specifically, Mourinho didn't hesitate. "I think he's incredibly complete. He can dribble, he can pass, and his technical quality is outstanding. In Spain, we always talk about players who can connect with others. He has that naturally. He grew up with that instinct to link play, move the ball, and build relationships on the pitch. He also has the mindset to get involved, demand the ball, and influence the game. At the same time, he's strong, he can take players on, and he can finish. He's a truly complete signing." Mourinho also touched on how the modern game often reduces players to simple numbers. "These days everyone judges players by goals and assists, that's just how it is. But as footballers, we see the deeper qualities he brings, the technique, the movement, the intelligence. Even in training, you can tell immediately how special he is. Yes, he's scoring goals, but he's much more than that. He's an exceptional player, and we're incredibly lucky to have him. He can play in several positions and adapt to different systems. He's been a huge addition for Arsenal." Beyond the technical qualities, Mourinho believes Iza's attitude, and the healthy competition within the squad, will be crucial in Arsenal's title push. You can hear the calm in Eberechi's voice and see it in the way he carries himself. He's confident, grounded, and every morning we sit together in the sauna at the training ground and talk about everything, he added with a smile. "He's a great guy, already fully integrated, and we need players like him. Competition is fierce. There's so much quality in this squad. That's exactly what the manager wanted, as many top players as possible, all ready to play. It makes his decisions tough, choosing who starts and who doesn't, but it also pushes every one of us to give our best in every session. And that's why we're improving as a team." As Arsenal prepare for Bayern's arrival, Arteta is facing one of the most delicate balancing acts of the season. The squad is healthy, competition is fierce, and expectations have never been higher. But behind the scenes, there is a growing sense that Iza's versatility and calm presence may be essential against a Bayern side known for controlling the tempo in big European nights. Arteta himself has hinted at Iza's importance without naming him directly. After the Tottenham victory, the manager spoke about the need for players who can break pressure, dictate rhythm, and stay composed when the game becomes chaotic. Those inside the club believe those comments were aimed at Iza as much as anyone. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed by how quickly he has adapted to Arsenal's positional play structure, a system that demands far more tactical discipline than what he was used to at Crystal Palace. Analysts at the club point to his growing influence not only in the final third, but also in build-up phases, where his ability to glide past pressure could help Arsenal bypass Bayern's aggressive midfield line. There is also an awareness that Bayern's fullbacks tend to push high, leaving spaces between the lines. Iza's skill set, sharp turns, deceptive acceleration, and precise final balls, could be exactly what Arteta needs to exploit those gaps. Outside the club, pundits have already started circling Wednesday's match as a defining moment for the £67.5 million signing. Some believe that if Iza can impose himself on a Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, it will confirm his arrival among Europe's elite creative players. Former players have echoed that sentiment. Several ex-Arsenal figures, speaking on television over the weekend, highlighted the need for someone who can change the temperature of the match with a moment of calm or an unexpected burst of creativity. Iza, they argued, is one of the few in the squad capable of both. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich come into the match with their own confidence. Their midfield trio has been one of the most dominant in Europe this season, and they have shown a repeated ability to suffocate opponents early. That dynamic is precisely why Arteta may lean on Iza's composure. When the game tightens, Arsenal will need a player capable of slowing it down, protecting the ball, and finding solutions in tight spaces. Within Arsenal's dressing room, Mourinho's praise reflects a broader consensus. Senior players have reportedly been struck by Iza's humility and work ethic, qualities that have helped him integrate seamlessly into a squad that already had strong internal chemistry. Staff members describe him as someone who never forces the game and lets the match come to him, characteristics that could prove invaluable in a high-tension Champions League tie. As kickoff approaches, the narrative surrounding the match has shifted. What began as a test of Arsenal's resilience has quietly become a spotlight on whether Eze can elevate them in Europe the same way he has in the Premier League. For Arteta, the equation is simple. If Arsenal are to overcome Bayern, they will need more than intensity. They will need control. They will need creativity. And increasingly, they will need the completeness Eze brings to every phase of the pitch. Whether he starts in a wide role as a floating midfielder, or even as an interior playmaker, the expectation is the same. Eze will have to find the spaces others cannot, and influence the game in ways that statistics alone will not capture. The stakes are high, the opponent is formidable, and the spotlight is intense. But within the walls of London Coney, the belief is growing that this is exactly the kind of stage Ebereki Eze was signed for. Martin Odegaard is nearing a return to action after suffering a medial collateral ligament injury in Arsenal's 2-0 win over West Ham earlier in October. Yet, 3.5 years after Mikel Arteta named him captain, the Norwegian finds himself in an unfamiliar position. His place in the starting lineup is no longer guaranteed. For the first time since joining the club permanently from Real Madrid in August 2021, there is real debate over whether he remains an automatic choice for Arteta's 11. Odegaard, now 26, has been central to Arsenal's resurgence under Arteta, the conductor who shaped the team's rhythm through some of their most fluid football. But this season, the Gunners have been forced to navigate long stretches without their captain, first due to a shoulder issue that kept him out of 4 matches in September, and then because of the knee collision with West Ham's Crescencio Somerville that sidelined him again. And during his absence, something significant happened. Ebereki Eze stepped into the spotlight. Eze's sensational hat-trick in the North London Derby has complicated the picture. Now thriving in a central role, the England international has given Arsenal a different kind of presence around the edge of the box. A blend of unpredictability, directness, and two-footed confidence that opponents struggle to contain. He may not control games with the same metronomic precision as Odegaard, but he offers a spark, a willingness to take risks at moments when Arsenal need a jolt of creativity. After such a standout performance against Tottenham, it feels almost impossible to imagine Arteta leaving Eze out. The manager has always had a soft spot for players riding a wave of confidence, and Eze is currently surfing at full height. There was a similar situation back in September, when Mikel Merino was handed a start against Manchester City after scoring 4 times in 2 games for Spain, including a hat-trick against Turkey. Arteta doesn't hesitate to reward form. Eze has carried that form onto the international stage as well, recently scoring a stunning goal for England in a 2-0 win over Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers at Wembley. Though he can play on the left, it has always been clear that Arteta brought him to the Emirates to operate in midfield. And with Declan Rice and Martin Zubamendi near untouchable in the double pivot, the odds of Eze and Odegaard consistently starting together seem slim. That leaves Odegaard in an unfamiliar position. He needs minutes to rebuild sharpness, yet Arsenal's medical team won't rush him. The plan is likely to ease him back through short substitute appearances before restoring him to larger roles. But even once fully fit, Odegaard faces genuine competition, because Eze has shifted the landscape. His arrival has raised the team's ceiling, and his performances have earned him the right to keep his place. Before the dismantling of Tottenham, Eze had scored only twice for Arsenal, one against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup and another versus his former club Crystal Palace, a clever finish that sealed victory. Now with 5 goals across all competitions, he sits just 1 behind Odegaard's total from last season, when the captain made 45 appearances. Odegaard's 2023-24 numbers were outstanding: 11 goals, 12 assists, influence written across every competition. That is the standard he must match again if he wants to reclaim his spot, because Eze is hungry, confident, and eager to impress ahead of next summer's World Cup. Arteta will insist that Arsenal need both players at their best if they are to meet their ambitions in the months ahead. And with Kai Havertz also working his way back to full fitness, potentially slotting into midfield behind marquee striker Victor Gyökeres, the battle for places has never been fiercer at the Emirates. For Odegaard, the message is clear: he must rise to the challenge. His leadership and quality remain unquestioned, but he can no longer rely on reputation alone. If he embraces the competition and fights his way back into the side, his return could push Arsenal to even greater heights. And if the team has already reached this level without several key figures, the potential for what comes next may be even greater. Inside the club, staff members are quietly acknowledging that Arsenal are entering a new phase, one where no player, not even the captain, is immune to tactical evolution. Arteta has spent the past 2 seasons building a squad capable of sustaining pressure across multiple competitions, and the emergence of ease is a sign that the manager's long-term planning is beginning to bear fruit. Depth is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. But with depth comes difficult decisions. Arteta has always valued balance in midfield, and the contrasting profiles of Odegaard and Ease force him to reconsider what type of midfield best suits the team's ambitions in Europe and the Premier League. The technical control and spatial awareness that Odegaard brings have defined Arsenal's identity under Arteta. Conversely, Ease's dynamism, physical presence, and unpredictable touches give Arsenal a new dimension, especially against teams that sit deep or defend aggressively in central areas. This internal shift has also caught the attention of analysts and former players. Several pundits have begun to question whether the captaincy should guarantee a place in the lineup, especially at a club with ambitions of challenging for the Champions League. Others argue that Odegaard's leadership is too valuable to sideline, pointing to the standards he sets in training and his influence over younger players. Those debates are already spilling into the media, and they will only intensify as the season progresses. There is also the tactical question of whether Arteta might eventually experiment with a system that accommodates both Ease and Odegaard, something he briefly attempted earlier in the season during the win over West Ham. But with Rice and Zubimendi forming an almost impenetrable midfield pairing, any reshuffle risks destabilizing the defensive structure that has made Arsenal one of the most resilient teams in the league. The manager has hinted that he is open to adjustments, but only if they enhance the team's overall cohesion. For Odegaard himself, the challenge is as much psychological as it is physical. He has worked hard to cultivate an image of calm authority, a leader who raises the level of those around him through clarity and consistency. Now he must show that he can adapt, compete, and respond to adversity. His teammates still speak of him with admiration, describing him as one of the most studious and detail-oriented players at London Coney. They believe that once he regains full rhythm, he will naturally reassert his influence. Yet even they acknowledge that the landscape has shifted. One senior player privately remarked that, "The team is different now, Ease has changed what we can do in the final third." That sentiment reflects not a lack of faith in Odegaard, but an understanding that Arsenal have evolved while he has been sidelined. For Arteta, the ideal scenario is straightforward, a fully fit Odegaard competing with a fully confident Ease, creating a level of internal competition that lifts the entire squad. The manager often speaks about the need for healthy tension among his players, pressure that keeps standards high without fracturing unity. The arrival of Vickery, combined with the recovery of Havertz, only amplifies that dynamic. Arsenal's season will almost certainly hinge on these midfield decisions. With Champions League knockout matches approaching and the Premier League title race tightening, Arteta must decide not only who starts, but what kind of identity he wants his team to carry into the defining months of the campaign. The next few weeks will reveal whether Odegaard's return sparks a resurgence or a battle for relevance. If he manages to reclaim his place, it could serve as a reminder of why Arteta trusted him with the armband in the first place. If he struggles, it will underline how rapidly Arsenal are progressing, and how little room there is for sentiment at the highest level. Either way, the captain's response will shape not just his future, but the trajectory of a team that believes it is on the brink of something significant.